So today's session is Literature Search Basics. Today will be co-taught by me, Soraya Layton, and my colleague, David Ferris. We are librarians here at the Research Medical Library. Everything that we're going to discuss today is going to be found on our LibGuide. I'm going to drop the link here in the chat box. If you lose it, don't worry, we're going to send it out in the follow-up email. This will be included as well as the recording. So today's agenda is going to cover 4 main topics. It is formulating a searchable question, how to select resources to search, creating a search strategy, and using additional search techniques. So let's go ahead and discuss what is a literature search so we're all on the same page. It is a well-organized search from already published data, and it's going to help identify a coverage of good quality references on a specific topic. So this image here shows where the literature search is in the grand scheme of a literature review, and that is a process that summarizes evidence on a specific topic. So while you'll be doing all 5 steps today, we're going to specifically talk about literature searching. So first, to formulate a searchable question, you need to decide on a research question framework. For today, we're going to be talking about PICO, and there are multiple research question frameworks, and that helps to define and structure your search. PICO is the most common one for clinical and quantitative research topics. So we are going to have our first poll, and it is anonymous. So I'm just going to give you guys a few seconds here. Okay, looks like we're nearly there with everyone answering. So I'm going to end the polling and share the results. Okay, great. So we are going to cover it, so don't worry. Here are the results. I think you should be able to see it on your screen. So PICO stands for the P. The P is, how can I describe a group of patients or problem? The I is, what main intervention or exposure am I considering? The C is, what is the alternative to compare the intervention or exposure? The O is, what can I hope to accomplish, measure, improve, or affect? So the outcome of interest. And this is the framework here, so you're kind of trying to decide each one. And for today's example that we're going to use throughout the class is as follows. So please go ahead and read it, but I'll read it out loud. A patient has been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and has asked her doctor if there are options for treating her condition without medication. The doctor states that adopting a Mediterranean diet might be effective and will search the medical literature for evidence. And this leads us to our second poll. And go ahead and just take a guess. I mean, I know a lot of people haven't used this method before, but this will show, you'll be able to see the steps that we'll take to learn the process. And you can minimize the poll as well, so you can read it, but I'll go ahead and move the poll out of your way. And so there are 4 questions here, so you might have to scroll down to answer them all. And once again, these are anonymous, so there's no pressure here. Okay, looks like we have most of the answers in. So I'm going to end the poll now and share the results. Okay, and we're going to go through these, so if you have any questions, please comment in the chat box. Great. Okay, here we go. So first up, we have the P, and that is type 2 diabetes. This is the problem that we have in this example. For the intervention and exposure, it's Mediterranean diet. For comparison, there is no comparison because the patient specifically asked for Mediterranean diet. If an example of a comparison would have been if she had asked, I'd like to either adopt a Mediterranean diet or a low-fat diet. But she didn't ask for that, so there's no comparison in this example. The outcome we're looking for in this example is treating the condition without medication. So all four combined is our searchable question in the framework that we've used. So it's all here. And I don't see any questions in the chat box. So the following are resources that you can use to search. These are our core databases used when searching this kind of medical literature. And they are going to be organized from basic skill level to advanced. So first up, we have PubMed. This database is biomedical database. It includes Medline, PubMed Central, and NCBI. It has over 30 million citations and abstracts of biomedical literature. This is basic search level skills, and it is used for searching keywords or phrases. Next up is Scopus. This database is for science, technology, medicine, and social sciences with over 77 million records. This skill set is basic to intermediary, and it is used for keywords or phrases. Web of Science is a biomedical sciences, natural sciences, engineering, and social sciences database. It is basic to intermediary skill set, and you use it for searching keywords or phrases. Our next database is CINAHL, and this is a nursing and allied health literature database with over 6 million records. It's intermediary to advanced skill set, and you can use it to search for keywords or phrases, and then this can include subject headings and some field tags. And so our last two are the more advanced skill set. So we recommend leaving that up to the experts, but we're still going to discuss it for resources to use. Medline Ovid is a biomedicine and life sciences literature database. This is advanced skill set, and it is used for searching specific mesh terms and meshes medical subject headings, keywords, and phrases. Last up is Embase Ovid, and this database is biomedical, pharmacological, and medical devices literature. This is also for advanced searching skill set, and it is used for searching for specific fields with entry terms, and entry terms are a list of subject headings unique to Embase. You can also search for keywords and phrases. So these are the list of the core databases. Do we have any questions before we move on? And for this class, we're going to cover PubMed and Scopus specifically. So PubMed, an important thing to note here is it is free to use for everyone. So you can access it, it's free. It includes Medline records, and it covers biomedical and life sciences literature. Scopus, however, does require a subscription, but it's important to note that it is free for MD Anderson staff and students as long as you're accessing Scopus from the Research Medical Library website. Scopus does include Medline and Embase records, so you can just see from there that it is going to be more encompassing than PubMed. It also covers life sciences and biomedical A cool thing about Scopus is it also shows highest cited articles, and David is going to go more in depth on that as well as both databases. Okay, so these are tools to help create a search strategy. We have subject headings, keywords, plurals and spelling variants, and we also have Boolean operators. So this is what we'll be covering in the next few slides. Subject headings are used by catalogers and database indexers to describe what a source or what an article or book is about. Subject headings are part of a controlled vocabulary, and that standardizes and organizes words and phrases to make it more consistent. And so it's important to know that these indexers are humans, and just like everyone else, we sometimes make mistakes. So subject headings are not always perfect. So if you find something that you know is incorrect, you can always email the database and let them know. But for the most part, it's really good. And we did mention MESH before, medical subject headings. And an example that you might see for today when we're discussing type 2 diabetes, it will show up as diabetes mellitus. And this was taken from PubMed. Okay, keywords are words and phrases found within the text of the source. So this is the author's own words. The keywords are also words you can use to search a database or search engine. So I've put up the question that we have all created for today's example. Go ahead and take a second and think what keywords would be from this question that you would use to search. So these are the keywords: Mediterranean diet, type 2 diabetes, treatment without medication. And then we're going to test your newfound skill by the following question here. Does hand washing among healthcare workers reduce hospital-acquired infections? So I'm going to launch the next poll. And go ahead and select which keywords you think are found in this question. Okay, looks like almost everyone has answers. So I'm just going to end the polling. And here are the results. Okay, so the keywords are hand washing, healthcare workers, and hospital-acquired infection. So great job, everyone. Do you have any questions on the answer to that? Spelling variants and plurals. So for today's example, that could look like type 2 diabetes with the Arabic number 2 versus type 2 diabetes written as the Roman numeral number 2. There's also the chance of American English versus British English with the tumor with the O versus tumor spelled O-U. For plurals, this could look like diet versus diets or dieting, dietary. So by using the truncation or wildcard symbols, this is going to help you search. So an example could be diet with an asterisk, and that's going to be the truncation wildcard symbol. And this is going to retrieve all the records. This is going to include diet, diets, dieting, dietary, just everything you can think of. And if you place a character after the asterisk, this is going to specify the maximum number of characters that will follow the root word or phrase. So For diet *1, this is going to retrieve diet and diets, but nothing more. So like it's not going to include dieting and dietary. If you did want to include those, then you would change it to diet *3, so that there are 3 characters after that. So that would also include dieting and dietary. All right, next up we have Boolean operators. And you can see from this image, we're going to be talking about and, or not, and how that's going to affect the retrieval of results. So first up, and on the left-hand side, this result would only retrieve items with Mediterranean diet and type 2 diabetes with both terms. Using and will decrease the number of results because it will only contain those 2 terms. Next up is or. This search result will include items with Mediterranean diet, with type 2 diabetes, and with both. So you can see here that this is increasing the number of results because it can contain any of the search terms. Okay, on the right, not. Using not will exclude specific keywords from the search. So this search, you can see, will retrieve results with Mediterranean diet, and it will exclude those with type 2 diabetes or Mediterranean diet with type 2 diabetes. So when using not, you want to be cautious because this could exclude relevant articles. Not is often used by advanced searchers to exclude animal studies from search results. An example would be humans, not animals. Okay, see, we have a question here. To clarify, would diet *3 return only dieting and dietary or also diet and diets? It would include diet and diet. So it's going to include anything up to 3 characters. So yes, it'll include all of those terms. It's a good question. Does anyone else have any thing they'd like clarification on before the next slide? Okay. So the following are additional search techniques, and I'm going to go over them briefly. David will expand on them during his demonstration. But these techniques are used to expand a search once you've found a relevant article that you would like to use. First up is term harvesting, sometimes referred to as pearl growing. So this is looking at keywords that you've found on your relevant article to identify terms that you would like to add to your search strategy. And the next slide will show an example of this, so you can see where each one is located on the article. Next up is backward citations, sometimes referred to as citation chaining. This is reviewing the list of references that your relevant article has cited. So what they looked at when they were writing their article or book. Forward citations, also called snowballing. This is looking at the cited by portion of the relevant article to review the title or abstract of publications that have cited your relevant article. So on this slide, you can see where those items are located. So first up, where keywords is in that red rectangle, that is term harvesting or pearl growing. These are the keywords that you might add to your search strategy. And then forward citation is sometimes referred to as snowballing, and you can see that's the cited by. So these are people who have used this article you found. So they might be newer and also relevant to your search. Lastly, for backward citation searching or citation chaining, that's where you can look at the references that your relevant article has used when writing their paper. Okay, I'm going to give just a few seconds or for questions before I stop sharing and turn it over to David. Okay, looks like there's no questions, but feel free to drop it in the chat box at any time and also at the end. But I'll stop sharing my screen.
Marked in your browser already, feel free just to Google it. I always just search Research Medical Library MBA. Google knows what I'm talking about, and then I bookmark it. In fact, you can see on my ribbon, I've got it actually bookmarked right here. So this is the library's website. This is your gateway to all of the information that we provide access to. You're going to want to come to this website in order to access the databases. As Soraya stated, PubMed is a freely accessible database. It's created and maintained by the United States National Library of Medicine. This means anybody in the world with a device connected to the internet can use PubMed to search for literature for free. However, Scopus, like most of our other databases we provide access to, is subscription-based, meaning the library pays for you to use the database to search for literature. Want to point this out. Having access to a database does not mean you also have access to the full text of the article, but rather it means you have access to the records with specific information such as title, author, abstract, other bibliographic information from the article that's useful, critical for searching for that article. So basically, when you search a database, you are searching for the records that are created to represent the article, not the actual articles themselves, although there is always the exception to the rule. There are a couple of databases that actually put the entire full text of the article into the record, but PubMed and Scopus do not do that. So basically, think of it like this. A database is a collection of records with a search interface on top. And when you're thinking about words to use to search for your topic, it's important to understand that you're searching records and not the full text articles. Are there any questions about that? It can be a bit meta to think about, but oftentimes people think when they search PubMed, they're searching articles. And in a sense, yes. I don't see any questions popping out, so we shall proceed. Okay, so what you're going to want to do once you navigate to our website, hover over Find Information, and you'll see right here in the first column, PubMed is linked, but I'm going to go to the databases page. The way we have all of our databases listed is we have our core databases, and you will notice that the resources that Soraya mentioned earlier in the presentation are all listed under the core databases. That's because they are the primary resources that people will use to search for literature. But we have hundreds and hundreds of databases, so we've organized them by subject category. We also list them A through Z. So every database that we subscribe to, you have access to, but the primary ones, such as PubMed and Scopus, are listed right under the core databases. So I'm going to go ahead and click on PubMed, and this is PubMed. PubMed recently underwent an update to make it more user-friendly and more compatible with search mobile devices. That's what I'm trying to say. So it may look different to you if you have used PubMed in the past. Essentially, it's the same thing, only better. They've tweaked their search algorithm so it's more responsive to the way we search nowadays, because I like to say that a lot of these databases are trying to make searching them as easy as it is searching Google, since a lot of us start with Google. So they're catching on and saying, gee, we need to make this easier. So PubMed has also tweaked their search algorithm, which is called the automatic term mapping. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you guys. And Soraya, if you could look at the chat and see if I'm missing any questions, I would appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start typing in our first concept and our second concept. I find when searching a database, it's better to start, oftentimes less is more. So if you start typing in all of your concepts, chances are the database is not going to return anything to you. It's not going to understand exactly what all you want. So I like to start with just one or two concepts. And as you see, just like Google, it auto-populates, auto-suggests so that we can just select that. I'm also going to add in our Mediterranean diet. Let's see if I spell it correctly. And I'm going to press enter. And so this is our search results page. Just to give you a few notes about this, our search results are in the center. On the right side, the left side of the screen, we have our filters that we can use to further refine our results. Right now, as you can see, we have 493 search results just using these terms. And we can select different filters to limit those results. For instance, if we only wanted to show the last 5 years, we can say we want to limit our results to just humans. Oftentimes people want to look at just specifically English articles. There are additional filters you can select to show that you can choose. You click here, additional filters, and you can show if you want to limit your results just to clinical trial protocols or abstracts, clinical conferences. The species, this is where you can say, I want to use this human filter to just weed out the animal studies. Language, subject, these are all pre-selected from the National Library of Medicine. So some are useful, some may not be useful to you. I like to show these two, the species and the English. So let's click on this just to show you what it does. So if I click on the 5 years, what you'll notice is when you select a filter, you get a pink bar above your first search result, and it tells you what filter has been selected. This one last published in the last 5 years. Notice our search results have decreased to 254. We can add additional filters like English, and our search results again filtered a little bit fewer results. So we don't have any non-English articles, and we can see that the filters applied include both our publication 5 year and English. Now just note, if we decide we've gotten all the information we want from this subject, this search, we want to start a new search on a new topic, be sure to clear your filters. These will stay selected during your search session. So if we were to search for instance, triple negative breast cancer, our filters would be remembered. We would not see all of our results. We might miss some relevant results. So let me clear those real quick, get back to our 493. And as I was saying about PubMed, the search algorithm is like Google. It's going to try to understand what you mean. So but unlike Google, PubMed will pull the curtain back and let you see how they parsed your keywords, your terms you use to search. So if you click on Advanced, that takes you to the PubMed Advanced Search Builder. And if you scroll down, you will see our most recent searches. I'm going to click the details for the first one. You're going to see this information, which is the actual search strategy with all the Boolean operators, and these are called field tags. We'll talk about those in just a bit. But first, notice the translation. this is how PubMed has parsed your topic. It has identified, oh, you're talking about type 2 diabetes. You also want stuff that's Mediterranean diet. And it mapped to the subject heading. It found a mesh term for diabetes, which is diabetes mellitus, type 2. It also found a mesh heading for Mediterranean diet. In addition to that, it searched all the records for type 2 diabetes mellitus, but it also searched the records for the phrase that we entered, type 2 diabetes. It did the same thing with Mediterranean diet. Here's our phrase. It also looks like it did something else. It decided to expand our search by saying, let me search all the fields for diet and Mediterranean, and also Mediterranean and diet. This is not anything you need to necessarily pay attention to. This, in terms of worrying about, it looks like our results were pretty relevant just looking a real quick glance. But if we looked at the results real quickly and we weren't seeing anything, rather than changing any search terms or trying to, go back and recreate the wheel, look at how PubMed has interpreted your search. And we see, oh, okay, it's got our concepts, but I'm not sure about this. I wonder what that means. We can always change this. Let me show you. For instance, let's pretend we like this. That looks good. We can copy and paste directly from translations and paste in the query box. Use our Boolean and. I'm only going to copy this concept. And I just want my exact phrase. I want to exclude, I'm not sure what it's doing. I want to see if it does anything. Use my OR operator to combine the subject heading with the phrase, and let's see what happens. I've got 493. Let's search. Looks right to me. And look what happened. Look how many more results I got. Let's see what happened. Click on advanced. Scroll down. Cool. Yes. So that's how it parsed it. PubMed, the algorithm saw type 2 diabetes, Mediterranean diet, and it assumed. We checked on the translation, the details, to make sure it interpreted correctly. We found 493. That looked great. I wanted to just see what this might have been doing. And so by clicking on the details and just doing this, so we have our mesh heading for diabetes, our type 2 all fields, or type 2 diabetes mellitus, and the diet Mediterranean mesh, or just our phrase, and it brought back so many more results. So we might have missed some things that might be relevant had we not changed that. This brings up another point I want to explain, to show you. So we go back to PubMed. Sometimes you're going to want to add additional keywords to a concept to kind of expand it. So let me show you what that looks like. For our type 2 diabetes, there could be other ways to say type 2 diabetes in the literature. For example, let's say, yes, sure. I would be glad to. So let me go back to my advanced. Let me go back down here. And actually, let me show you both here. So, I can only show, okay. So what the original search was for the 493, I kept the same type diabetes concept the way they had it, but within Mediterranean diet, I noticed that they had, in addition to my phrase, the Mediterranean diet, they also flipped it on me. They did diet, all fields, and Mediterranean, all fields. And then they did it in the reverse, Mediterranean, all fields, and diet. I wasn't sure exactly what it was doing, so I wanted to exclude that and just make it search my phrase. And by excluding those two elements, I got so many more results. And what could happen here, let's just click on the number of results. Then what I could do is I could start using my filters for 5 years. Let me get rid of that. And let's select English. And instead of the 400 or whatever, I've got so many more results that might be relevant. In this instance, I'm not going to go through almost 3,000 results. What I would then do here is go back to my advanced, or you could edit it directly here. What if we get rid of our subject heading and we want it very specifically type 2 diabetes, what our phrase? Well, you know what, let's go back to our original. Right. 2 diabetes, and this is the power of using field tags. So you can tell PubMed, I want you to search this phrase, these words in a specific field. And so I can tell PubMed, I want you to search for type 2 diabetes and just the title field or the abstract field. And Mediterranean diet in just the title and abstract field. You have to enclose the field tags with the square brackets. That tells PubMed that's a field tag. And if we clicked enter or search, we get 295 results. So the logic is if the keyword that we're using is in the title or the abstract, chances are that's going to be relevant. We might want to look at it because the main terms that we're using are in the title and abstract. We can focus this even more. If I wasn't pleased with this, like I'm looking at this and I'm like, they're kind of good. I see some things like, oh, that's good, but I'm not seeing a lot of stuff. What I could also do, instead of trying to, try to add additional keywords or subject headings and just see, am I even using the right term? Just limit it to the title field. Click enter. Notice we get 56 results. So we're telling PubMed, just search the title field for type 2 diabetes and search it for Mediterranean diet. If either of these phrases are in that, bring it back to me. And you'll notice we're seeing, I'm seeing some more relevant articles that I'm going to want to look at right up front. Now, the way it's displayed, I can change how it's displayed. Let me show you. Right here, under display options, I can select if I want to see the summary, which is what we're looking at now. The summary shows the bibliographic information and a brief preview of the abstract if it's available. It highlights my search terms. But there's also abstract. Right now, if I left it on summary, if I wanted to read this abstract for this article, if it had one, I would need to click on it. I would need to click on all of these to see what is the abstract. If I didn't want to have to click on each title, I could just display it with the abstract format, and then I could click and read without having to click on each individual title. I can also, the other two formats, this is more for a librarian view. I'll show it to you just for fun. This is sort of like the administrative kind of technical side. This is basically the field tags and the bits of information that are in each field. So it's really useful for those of us who do a lot of searching so we can find out where these bits of information have been put into the record. And then the PMID is just going to give you a list of the PMIDs for these results. I'm showing only 10 results. I can also change how I sort. I'm actually going to change it back to summary because I like to see my highlighted terms. And I'm going to change my sort by. I like, before I start messing around too much trying to go back and think, am I using the right terms? I'm going to select best match. I want to see, is PubMed not only understanding my terms that I'm using, but also bring back the most relevant stuff to me. The way I had it sorted before, I think the default was most recently added to PubMed. And I don't necessarily want that. I want what PubMed thinks is most relevant to me. And so far, I'm finding some good stuff. One thing I'm not seeing, and I'm not sure why, is it's not showing our snippet. Let me do that again. Interesting. It's not showing our snippet. Well, this is another learning opportunity. Databases are imperfect. They will, as with all technology, sometimes they have a mind of their own. And it seems as though this morning, PubMed is playing a trick on me and not showing me everything. Let me see if I can coax it again. Now, this is a snippet view. You can see that it's got some of our search terms highlighted as well. One thing I like to do this way is once I'm looking and I'm finding some stuff, is let me find my best match. Good. You can also look through and start seeing, oh, interesting. Maybe I want to add T to DM as a keyword to my search to maybe authors are using this to talk about type 2 diabetes instead of type 2 diabetes. So that's a great way to increase the number of keywords, like what else would they be using? For instance, you see, type 2 diabetes, people can use the 2, the Arabic number, or they can use the Roman numeral. So let's see what happens. In this instance, I'm going to go ahead and use a field tag, title abstract. I'm going to use my Boolean operator, and I'm going to say type Roman numeral 2. And see, actually what I want to show you first is just this. So we can see the number of results. So for type 2 diabetes in the title abstract field, 128,000 results. Let me add the Arabic, the Roman numeral. Enter. Notice I got more results, 136,000 plus. That's because sometimes people will use the Roman numeral. And if I did not include that in my search, I might have missed this article. I don't know necessarily if this article is relevant, but there might be some articles that are relevant to Mediterranean diet, type 2 diabetes, and treatment that are using this form of type 2 rather than the Arabic numeral. Are there any questions about that so far? Don't see any. Let me just look in the chat real quick. Don't see the chat. I will just trust that there are none. Nope. Okay, I just saw an orange thing pop up, so excellent. Okay, so a way to increase the number of results is to use the Boolean operator or to add additional synonyms and word endings and plurals. And the Boolean operator and is a way to combine the concepts. Let me get my notes out, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, let's have a poll.
Before you move on really quick, I did have a question in the chat.
Please.
Just explaining it might be easier to read on, oh, never mind, somebody answered it. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. I'm sorry, guys. I can't see the chat for some reason. It's not showing for me. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. I guess since I'm sharing my screen, I'm not also seeing the chat, but I only have a laptop. I don't have double screen, so maybe it's lost in there. Soraya, can we show a poll? Perhaps, let me see, what did I call it? So what would you click on to change how your results are sorted in PubMed? Again, it's anonymous. We're here to learn, not shame. Just give it 30 more seconds. Looks like lots of people are answering. That's great. Couple of more seconds and we'll close the poll. Let's end the poll and show the results. Display options. That is correct. Let me go back and show that to you guys again. It may not have been perfectly clear. So the question is, what would you click on to change how the results are sorted? So what I want to do is I want to change how I see these results. I can filter the number of results by date. I can use my date slider and just say I want the last, 6, 7 years. Please fill out this. But I'm just doing that. Okay, let me just click on this real quick. Click on our 30,000, 13,000. And then I can do that. And that's going to change the number of results. It's not going to show how they're sorted by. I can add additional filters, which will also reduce the number of results. But if I want to change how the list is shown, I go here to display options, sort by. I can say, I want to see the publication date. And that will show me the most recently published article first in descending order. I can also change that right here. I want to see the oldest. And it's 2003. My preference is best match. I like the to see what the database is going to think that I'm interested in. Okay, so if there are no questions, let me show you one of the records for an article. Let's go back to our original search, type 2 diabetes Mediterranean diet. And my display is best match. I'm going through the results. I'm seeing lots of highlighting in the title and abstract, so that makes me pretty confident that I'm using the right terms. I don't need to go back and add any other field tags or anything. I can just go through this real quick. I like this article. I want to actually look at it. And first thing I want to point out, if you'll see, is on the right side under full text links, you see our little red and black full text MD Anderson button. That tells you that you access PubMed from the library's webpage. And so you can very easily get access to this article by clicking on it. If you don't see this listed under the full text links, you just see like the journals link, chances are you went to PubMed from Google or you somehow got disconnected. So there's no need to pay for an article. If you want to have the full text, go to the library, see the full text. If we don't have it and you click on this button, it'll take you to a page where you can submit a request. In this case, we have access to this article. You can download the article. You can look at the journal record for the article, or you can look at the entire table of contents for the volume and issue this article is published in, the volume 5, issue 8. If we didn't have it, there would be another link here to say, request it from interlibrary loan. So back here, the record has a lot of information. for the article. It has all of the bibliographic information. It has the complete abstract that you can read. It also has a bunch of other stuff on the far right. This is a new option in PubMed, the page navigation, that it lists mesh terms, substances, all kinds of information. But here, I want to show you mesh terms. This is where we see all the mesh terms that an indexer at NLM has assigned to this particular article. And we can see the reason why this article came back in our search results is because it has been indexed with diabetes mellitus, type 2. It has also been indexed with diet, Mediterranean. If let's pretend that we did have the comparison of low fat, by looking at the mesh terms, you can see, oh, I might want to use this as an additional subject heading. Even though it's low fat, I didn't have to go and search for low fat. It's already telling me this probably might be, so I'm going to want to look at this, consider this, if I had the comparison. This whole, what I'm showing you about like looking in the mesh terms and reading the abstract, if we go up a bit, is that first search technique, extended technique, term harvesting, pearl growing. We're using our we're using our search results to kind of help us come up with ideas to cast a wider net, to expand our search, to do a more comprehensive. So that's what an example of term harvesting is. So we scroll all the way back down to our mesh terms. I recommend, before automatically selecting a mesh term, you're going to want to click on it. And then I'm going to right click on search in mesh so it opens in another tab. Mesh, the medical subject heading, there are, last time I think there were probably well over 30,000 unique mesh terms, maybe that many, maybe there are more. I don't quite remember the number, but there are a lot of them. And they're arranged in a specific kind of way to show correlation, relationships. So you're going to want to click on the record so that you can, number one, read the definition. Sometimes it's self-evident what the mesh term is about, but sometimes it's not. These, like Soraya had mentioned, there are, there's actually a whole group of people a team who decide on what the subject heading is going to be to represent this concept, which is often why it looks like this, diet, fat, restricted, rather than low fat diet. So you do want to make sure by reading the definition that you are in fact selecting the right subject heading for your topic. The other thing I want to show you, and this is another pearl growing term harvesting trick, is just like we looked in the abstract to see, oh, well, they had an acronym for type 2 diabetes, or maybe we need to use, in addition to Roman numeral 2, Arabic number 2, we want to use the Roman numeral 2 for type 2 diabetes. If you look under entry terms, and most of the mesh records will have a list of entry terms. These are basically like keywords that you can use to expand the number of search results you get. For instance, our comparison, if we had one, was low-fat diet. Well, but we might also want to search for fat-free diet or fat-restricted diets. So this is a way to kind of, I guess you're getting the picture that searching for literature and databases is kind of a word game. It's kind of like a logic puzzle word game. And sometimes it's hard to generate keywords if you aren't an expert really in this field, or you just like, I would have never thought to add fat-free diet because I'm looking for low fat. But this might, in fact, using this might actually bring back something that I want to use in my research. Does that make sense? Are there any questions about that? I don't see any. I don't hear any. Yes. Let me scroll back up on the article record. Are you talking about this feature under Actions, where you click on that and it shows you different formats? Like this is the AMA format. We can change it to MLA, APA, NLM. Is this what you're talking about? So this site, this is available in PubMed. So thank you for bringing that to my attention because I kind of had forgotten to talk about that. So let's go back to our search results. So let's pretend I like number 9 and 10. So I click on these. If I go back up to the top, so I use my navigation tab, I can save these results that I selected. I can email them. I can send them to a citation manager like EndNote. EndNote is what MD Anderson uses, that we support for citation management software. So you could then say, create my file, and it creates the file of the 2 results that then you can pull into EndNote and format however you wish to use. But I just learned recently some people don't, they actually use the reference tab in Word. So if this is how you do your EndNotes, your references, you could absolutely, this is the article you want to do, you cite it, you want to put it in APA format, and you copy it, and then you can paste it in your document. Does that answer the question? Too much information? Great. Okay. So now I want to, so we've talked about using OR to expand the number of results by saying, for instance, using Arabic and Roman numerals for our type 2 diabetes. For Mediterranean diet, we probably also want to search Mediterranean diets, an S at the end of diet for plural, just to see what would happen. I have a feeling it would do something. Let's test that just for fun. I'm going to go ahead and use my quotes. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use our truncation symbol and just see if that does anything. Okay. Yes, it does. 5,917. We get dietary. See, that's what Soraya was talking about with the little asterisk symbol. That's, we call it truncation. That's going to pull back dietary, diets, dietetic. I mean, I'm not seeing that word, but it's going to pull up all the variations of diet. And so it's a way to increase the number of search results. So I think we're ready for the poll that comes next, talking about how do we expand results and focus our results. So Soraya, thank you. Which Boolean operator would you use to increase the number of results retrieved? And go ahead, we'll give you about a minute. We'll give it about 10 more seconds. So last call. Okay, Soraya, would you end the poll and share the results? Excellent. OR is correct. OR, using OR, remember on the Boolean chart, it expands. You're going to say, I want records with this word or this word. Records that have type 2 diabetes or Mediterranean diet. So it could be an article that's only about diabetes, but not Mediterranean diet, but I want to see it. Actually, a better example would be the type 2 diabetes with the Arabic numeral or the Roman numeral. So I don't care if they're using the number 2 or the Roman numeral 2. I want to see articles that talk about type 2 diabetes. That's a better example. Okay. Can we go to polling question number 6? Okay. Which Boolean operator would you use to combine different concepts in a search? Okay, we'll give it about 10 more seconds. Looks like most people have answered. The correct operator is and. So I actually misspoke in my last example. I was saying I want to see records with diet or diabetes. That you wouldn't use or to combine the two concepts because you're wanting to see results that talk about both concepts. You would need to use and. And joins. And says, I want to see records that discuss both type 2 diabetes and Mediterranean diet. Are there any questions about that? Hopefully that was clear. If not, I'm happy to expand on that. Okay. So how about we have a look-see at Scopus? How does PubMed compare to Scopus? I'm going to navigate back to the Research Medical homepage, the databases page. Okay, so this is Scopus. It has a similar interface to PubMed in that it's easy to search. It's, a box, and then unlike PubMed, it's got some drop-down options. This is where you can say what field you want Scopus to search your words in. Now, Scopus, it's giving you an example right here of how it likes you to enter your terms. So it wants you to enclose your phrases in quotation marks and then separate concepts with a Boolean operator. I can show you what happens if we just like we did in PubMed. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. And see what happens. 817. Now, if you notice here, this is where the interpretation is that it shows you. So that says it's search type 2 diabetes and Mediterranean and diet in the title abstract keyword field. Not quite exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the search because I don't want to break up Mediterranean and diet. That might bring back some noise is what we call it. So if I enclose my two concepts and use Boolean operator, whoops, and then search, let's see if it isn't better. Yeah, it dropped it by what, 200 search results. And like PubMed, search results are front and center. There are filters on the left side that we can use. One of the nice things about Scopus that I really do like is that it shows you a breakdown of the number of results if you select the filter. So Scopus only has 51 articles published this year, 2020, from our search. You can use author name, subject area, language is all the way down here. You can see that there are 553, so that'll drop it down. And then on the actual search results list is where you can change how these are displayed. Unlike PubMed, you can show all the abstracts. And this is another thing I love. In the old PubMed, it used to do this, but the new PubMed, they've not turned on the feature. Your search terms are highlighted in the abstract. To me, this is really good because if we use our trick of changing the sort, right now it's on date newest. If we change it to relevance, that we're telling Scopus, okay, you show me what you think is most relevant to my keywords that I use, and it'll arrange them. The more highlighting in an abstract, just looking at these roles, that's a quick way for me to say, oh, I'm going to want to stop and look at this. I want to stop and this might be, something I need to look at. If I see fewer highlighting, then, it may not be worth as much time, looking at reading through, the abstract. But it looks like if I scroll up, there are lots of my concepts, Mediterranean diet, type 2 diabetes highlighted. So that's a pretty good indication that these are some relevant results. Another thing I want to show you that is that's unique to Scopus that PubMed doesn't use is we can sort on cited by. We can say cited by highest. Now, if we change that, what we are doing is we are saying, what are the articles that are the most highly cited based on the number of results that came back? When you see the high cited number, that's a really good indication that this paper is important to your topic. Now, I'm not really agreeing with this so far. I'm going to come back and I'm going to edit my search because just like in PubMed, I can say, let's do it very narrow. I want just the article title. I don't want all the keywords and all that. So I should get less than 580 results. And in fact, I do, 72. If I scroll down, I'm still sorted on cited highest by. Let me show all my abstracts again. And then I might say, oh, okay, this might be something that I want to look at. This is a highly cited paper. So chances are, by clicking on this, I can then look at several other things. In the article record, you scroll down. As Sarai mentioned, mesh terms, entry terms are all indexed in a Scopus record, but you don't use these terms necessarily to search Scopus. You don't have to use subject headings. Scopus does not have its own controlled vocabulary that it then applies retroactively to our records that it ingests. But if we scroll down, we can use one of our other search strategies called what do they call it? Citation chaining, or what I like to call backwards citation searching, which means you're looking at the references that were cited in this article. So if we say this particular article, A Journey into Mediterranean Diet and Type 2 Diabetes, this systematic review and meta-analysis, this is really excellent. We want to use this. A real quick way to find additional literature that might be relevant is to scroll down and look at the references that it cited. Now, not all of these might be interesting, but there might be a fair amount that it's like, oh, this I do want to look at this too, because then each of these records, for instance, we click on that, it's going to have its own list of references. We scroll down that we can then start looking and saying, oh, well, here's another one. Also, we can use, I went back to the previous record, we can also use this, this other thing called cited by. This is the snowballing. Since this article was published in 2015, according to Scopus, there have been 126 documents that have also cited this. So the rationale is, if this article is important to me, if this is something that I'm interested in, chances are I might want to look at the articles that cited it, because those might also be of interest to me as well, just like the citation chaining, the backwards. So you want to look backwards and you want to look forwards. Let's see. And if we click, you can click here, view all, and it will give you a list of references that you can then select and say very easily, oh, I like this one. I want to look at this one. I want to look at this one too. And then you can export to your citation management software. You can do EndNote. If you use Mendeley, just plain text, however you like. Lots of options to select. So that's a way to export and keep track of the items that you find that are interesting. You also can see cited by here. If you notice, we've got it list sorted on date newest. My year 2020, this article has not got any citations, but if I switch this to say highest, we might see, this might be interesting to our topic that we want to look at. It's been cited by 168 other articles published since 2018. This looks like it might be worth looking into. So, are there any questions about that, about using the article record to find references that might be useful to us that were cited by the article, using the cited by to see articles that have cited our article that's important to us? Are there any questions? And Soraya, could we post the last poll? Okay, in Scopus, which sort-on feature would you use to identify articles that could be considered landmark research, really important research that you're going to want to look at? So we'll give, about a minute, let people think. Okay, we'll give just a couple of, we'll give about 10 more seconds. So last call. Polls ended. And we're going to share the results. Correct. Cited by is the way to look to identify articles that might be considered important that we really want to pay attention to. I'm going to close the poll so I can show you guys. If we were to do it, let me get up here. If we were to do it by relevance, oh, wait, sorry, I'm not looking at the correct, I'm still looking at the cited by results. Let me get back to my original search results to show you guys. Here we go. 72 documents for our search terms, type 2 diabetes, my Mediterranean diet. If I do relevance, that's only going to show us what Scopus thinks are most relevant to our keywords. It doesn't rank it, sort it on the cite by. If I change it to cited by highest, that's going to show me the highest cited papers that I might want to look at that might be considered, landmark research. So great job, everyone. That's all for my, my demonstration. Are there any questions? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Excellent question. No. You noticed that I used all caps for the Boolean operators. That's kind of old school. It used to be that search engines, they just weren't sophisticated enough to identify when and is a Boolean operator and when and is just a stock word. Nowadays, they've improved that. But it's still, you might want to, just to be sure, just to test the database, is use all caps for your Boolean operators. I did find that documentation that you don't need to do it, but one never knows with the databases until you try it. I don't particularly use capitalization, punctuation, within the terms. For the Boolean, sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. But I've not found that it makes a difference in the number of results. Thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. We love to share the information on our tips and tricks. So if you do have questions or when you start searching and you get bogged down, please just contact us. We are happy to communicate via email. We can set up a one-on-one consultation. We can share screens like we did here and kind of help you craft, a better strategy, find out maybe the different terms to use. So please do feel free to reach out. You've all got friends in the library.